Listen up, y'all. My mother in law has lived up to the expectation of being the typical daughter in law hating mother in law. But even in the series and dramas, there's only a limit to which people go. My mother in law tried to make sure that all of us would end up being broke, all because her stupid ego was not getting satisfied. My mother-in-law and I always have had a very complicated relationship. She was the overprotective mom who probably had an issue with whoever her son would marry. I mean, initially, I used to think that she had a problem with me, but after some time, I realized that it was not about me. It was more about her need to control everything and some weird fear that I would take her son away. Like, I don't even get why that comes into people's heads. I don't remember doing anything to ever piss her off in the beginning. I mentioned it in the beginning because after some time, I realized that I had no option but to stand up for myself. It's not like my husband was a mama's boy or something. He is a wonderful man, and I'll talk about him later. But I realized that making him go and talk about me was only worsening the situation. She would, obviously, not even try to understand anything that her son would say, and would just assume that I have sent him to make him against his mom, like I'm some sort of a supervillain in an overpowered HBO show. I just had to speak for myself, and I started doing that while being as polite as I could be, given the situation. Things were a little better after a few months of our marriage because we had to move to a different city. I know how that sounds, but I'm not one to separate a mom from her son. She would always come over with so many taunts and backhanded compliments and just on, listing my flaws with a fake smile. It was annoying. And it's not like my husband was too fond of this. My husband is a great artist and he wanted to be one by profession as well. But his parents were not supportive of the idea and wanted him to have a good job. As if that was not already enough, every time she saw his fingers covered in paint or any canvas in the hall, she would understand that he was painting and make him feel worthless about it, like it was stupid and a waste of time. I didn't like that. We both didn't. So you can understand when I see that life was automatically better without her. But that changed soon. I always knew that my husband wanted to pursue art, despite having a career in a completely different field. So as our relationship progressed, we had a wild thought. What if he took a break from work and tried to do something with his art? It is all he had ever wanted to do anyway, and I wanted to support him. So we decided that I would continue working like I do while my husband will quit his job and stay at home to focus more on his art. We planned so many things, including taking art classes, going to galleries, etc. I could feel how happy he was with this thing. The only downside was that if one of us had to stop working, the other would have to work overtime to compensate. We had our savings and were counting on them if ever needed, but I decided I could work a few hours extra while my husband could probably do the household chores. Not all of it, of course. Generally, we used to divide our work, but with this new schedule, everything was a little messy in the beginning. But my husband, being the great chef that he was, would cook amazing meals and he enjoyed doing it. He would do these little experiments with flavors and play mix and match, and it was so cute to watch. I would try to help around as much as I could, but he would assure me that he didn't need my help and that I was already doing enough, so he would take care of the house. Not like I would let him do all the work, but it felt good. We had so much respect and understanding, and I felt like I was falling more and more in love with him day by day. And then came, yes, as you can guess, my mother-in-law. And she was mad. The most annoying thing was she did not even put a single finger towards her son. She behaved like this is what I wanted from the beginning and I'm changing gender roles. I was not having any of that, but I did not want to start arguing with her right then. My husband tried to make her understand how important art was for him and that he got a second chance to work on it and was very happy about how he was progressing. At that moment, I believed that she finally understood all of this and was fine with it. But I was dead wrong. The woman had other plans. She could not accept that I was the breadwinner while my husband was taking care of the house. That's all. Nothing else mattered to her. I don't know what was going on in her head, but she did her best to make sure that I got fired. I had a very important presentation coming up and was probably talking about the same all the time. For someone who was living with me, it was not that difficult to get a list of what was happening in my life in general. The same was the case with mother-in-law. She did not know where I kept my things or which file was important, so she decided to collectively destroy my laptop and everything else she could find. One evening, I came back home to find everything in a mess. There was water all around the house, all over my laptop and on my files, and it was a lot of water. No one was at home, and I couldn't think of anything else at the moment. My laptop had so many important things, and I could not understand how this happened. So it did take me quite some time to figure out that it was her planning this entire thing. Showed her interest in my husband's art and asked him if he could take her to one of the art galleries. He was so happy. I found out from my husband later that as they sat in the car, she said that she forgot something and went back. She was the last one to leave. When I asked her, she said that it was probably raining and the window was open. That sounds like the lamest thing ever because there was no rain all day. And even if it did rain, it would not be enough to create the mess that was in my room. I was super mad and needed to confront her right then. She started behaving like she did not know what I was talking about. Then she said that she felt sorry for me and understood why I am reacting like this. She said that she was sure that I was going to get fired and it must be so difficult for me. But her son would take care of everything. He would step up, so I should not worry. But that's when something funny and karmic happened. As it turns out, my mother-in-law was hurrying while throwing water off like that and by mistake did it to her laptop instead. Yeah, my husband borrowed her laptop last day and put it where I normally keep mine. So my laptop was still fine, but my mother-in-law destroyed her laptop. Think about that. Anyway, a few days later, it was her getting fired because as a senior member of her company, she was supposed to keep track of stuff that was written on her laptop. And there was no backup. I don't know how that was there, but good riddance. So instead of me, it is her who lost her job and now wants me to pay her bills too, because somehow it's my fault that her laptop got ruined. Seriously? Why should I help her? She is saying things like how she is an elderly person and it is our responsibility to take care of her, etc. Now you remember this? LOL. What's your take? Update 1. It's been 4 days. She's still living with us and expecting that I'll cover her bills now that I've said no so many times. The mask is off and she has come to her true, real self. She said that I was everything she had always been against and that women like me are why traditional people can't live in peace. Like, what the frick was that about? She continued to say that she did whatever she did because she wanted her family name to have some respect. The man is supposed to be the breadwinner of the house, and I was the manipulative witch who was making sure that everyone would play by my rules. My husband is furious with her, but she does not even acknowledge his own choice of not working. She said that I was ruining all the efforts that she made for all these years to make her son a man. She just kept on and on about these things, and my husband and I were so done. So we asked her to leave. She was not willing to at first, but my husband was so mad that he said that he would call the cops if she did not leave. She did not expect him to react like that. I don't know where she is right now. Probably at some hotel. I wish she just goes back. Update 2. Hey there. Sorry, I'm very messed up in my head with all the stress. So my writing might feel a little more like someone just complaining and complaining. Mother-in-law called all our relatives and told them that we kicked her out of our house after she lost her job because of me. And now people are calling me to ask what has happened. And no matter how much I try to explain things, people will ask you only for entertainment. They don't care who is the victim. I can try to explain the situation to some, but I don't have full control over this, and I don't like this as I don't want people to think like that of me. Update 3. Hey guys, not a lot to say, but my husband stood up for me, and we have tried to make sure that people shut up about these rumors that my mother-in-law is trying to spread. I still don't know where mother-in-law is living currently, but she occasionally calls us to try to harass us. I don't respond to her calls or texts anymore. My husband does at times, and she tries to emotionally blackmail him, but none of that works because my husband and I don't do anything behind each other's back. We have discussed the situation and we both can see how toxic it is. Best to let go of the bitch. Yeah, I said it. Bye. NTA, mother-in-law got the classic tit for tat. I started laughing out loud when I realized that she put water on her laptop. Good for her, LOL. Opinion 2. NTA, I feel so bad for your husband because my dad is like that as well. I can understand how his entire childhood has been and how you are supporting him now. Damn. I'd cry if someone supported me and my passions like that. Mother-in-law is gone. Don't let her back in. Next story. I, female, 22, am currently pregnant, stay-at-home mom. My partner, male, 33, is an NHS doctor. If you don't know, as I assume it's not news globally, the UK is under a cost of living crisis. Tax and national insurance are shockingly high. We are in an incredibly fortunate position, and even we are struggling. This stress is hard for him, especially as he is the one that deals with finances. As a result, we have been arguing a lot lately. I assume all new parents struggle to navigate the new dynamic, but this is hard. We don't get any help from family or friends, etc. We're doing this completely on our own. My family is abusive, so I've decided to not let them have any unsupervised time at all. The in-laws are lovely, just old and don't have the energy for our baby. We haven't had a day where either of us has had alone time yet. Baby wakes up 12 times a night. Sounds ridiculous, but I'm seeing a sleep specialist for him, and apparently some babies don't sleep. I've not slept a night since I was pregnant with him. I spend all night comforting and nursing him so he will sleep. My partner sleeps in a separate room so he isn't a safety hazard at work. He does night shifts 3 nights a month at the moment too. We are both burnt out. The house is a mess. There are always pots in the sink, toys on the floor, and nappies stinking through their bags. The laundry piled up. It's getting to a point where I've been begging for help. I just want him to spend the day with our difficult baby so I can clean. I'm not inexperienced with babies at all. I was forced to raise my little sister. I babysat my baby cousins. My baby is hard. He's clingy, fussy, and demanding. Like a baby's supposed to be, not his fault, obviously. My partner works hard. He's also a good dad. But he thinks I don't work. He thinks I'm just lazing around all day. He can't even take the baby for more than 3 hours without being a completely stressed mess at the end of it. He comes home from work and wonders why I'm so stressed and why nothing has been done. Before having a baby, the house was literally spotless every single day. Nothing was out of place except perhaps my clothes sometimes. I love being a mom, but I cannot take the stress of being the childcare, cleaning, cooking, laundrette, and focusing on my appearance too. I don't even have time to eat or drink most days. I'm running around like crazy, just desperately trying to keep on top of chores as the baby. Our last argument was me begging for help. I asked him to take the baby for 1 hour in the evening so I could clean the kitchen so I don't have to spend time on it in the day. He says I should be able to do it myself and that he works, so I need to. I don't get a break. He comes home and gets to play his game or study. I don't. I don't get a break. Am I the a-hole for asking his help when he works all day too? Age gap. Young baby that the barely no longer a teenager wife does almost 100% of the care for and has no money for herself. Pregnant again because everyone's burnt out, so why not add another one to the mix? Older husband who thinks she's lazy but refuses to help with anything. And certainly some financial control sprinkled on top. Bingo. Definitely NTA. Weird age gap, though. How old were you when you guys met? He can't stand being with his own baby for more than 3 hours without being super stressed. Why does he think it's not the same for you? Here is why I'm never having kids. NTA. You all need help. Get a babysitter or a mother's help. A 10-year-old who can watch the baby while you are still at home. Or something. My first thought is that sleep deprivation is a highly effective torture method. It messes with your ability to think critically, deal with stress, and of course, patience. My second thought is you both have very stressful jobs. The only difference is that when he comes home, his job as a healthcare professional is over. Your job is 24 hours a day. Third, you should be able to ask your partner to be able to watch their kid for any reason at all. There shouldn't be any scorekeeping or quid pro quo. Parents need to parent at all times. Last, the best advice I got for being a partner is to stop blaming one another for the problems. Instead, figure out how to solve them. An example might be instead of saying, "You've left a huge mess in the kitchen," say, "This kitchen needs cleaning." No one's fault, both partners versus the problem. Next story. I'm 24, female. My parents got divorced back when I was 11 years old and shared custody of both myself and my younger brother, 20, male. A few months after the split, my dad introduced my brother and I to my new stepmom, who we'll call Mary. My dad never gave Mary any kind of boundaries when it came to dealing with my brother and I. So growing up, she'd often cross the line and my dad wouldn't do anything to stand up for my brother and me and always sided with Mary. I endured a lot of emotional and verbal abuse from both my dad and Mary growing up. Fast forward years later, my dad and I now have a pretty good relationship and I've forgiven him. I've forgiven Mary, but don't have a close relationship with her. We're cordial with each other, but not close by any means. I've never gotten an actual apology from either of them. I've just chosen to forgive and let it go, but never forget. My dad and Mary had their wedding in early 2020, right before COVID. I was not involved at all in the wedding. I wasn't at the wedding party, and my boyfriend and I sat at a table with other 4 people in total, including us. It was essentially like the leftover table IMO. My younger brother was in the wedding party as a groomsman, so he was sat at the head of the table. The whole situation just made me feel pretty shitty that I wasn't really involved in the wedding at all, besides for a few pictures. So now, boyfriend, or fiance now, and I have been engaged for a year, and the wedding is next month. My dad is going to be walking me down the aisle. I sat my mom, dad, brother, and both my grandparents in the front row for the ceremony. Mary is sitting in the row behind them. My dad asked me why Mary was sat in the row behind him and why she couldn't sit with him. I told him that the front row is for my immediate family only, and that's how I want it. Apparently, she's unhappy and uncomfortable with this and feels that she should be more involved in the wedding. I told my dad, okay, sucks for her. I was unhappy and uncomfortable, and her and my dad's wedding and I sucked it up for a day. My dad is financially pitching in to help with the wedding, and Mary has threatened to take away the financial help from my dad and her. I told her to do whatever she wanted and that I frankly don't really care. She's been bad-mouthing me to both my dad and my brother, saying how I'm a major a-hole for doing and after all she's done for me. My brother thinks I'm in the right and it's my day. My dad is, of course, siding with Mary and understands that it's my day, but feels like I should be considerate of her and her feelings. AITA for not sitting here with my dad and involving her more? Info. If I was to sit Mary beside my dad, I'd have to move either one of my grandparents, my mom, or my brother to the second row. There is no room for all of them. The solution to this is simple. Your dad, after walking you down the aisle, sits with Mary in the second row. Everyone is happy. Your dad doesn't feel you slighted his wife. You get to make the point that she isn't immediate family, and you can ride off into the sunset as content as possible. YNTA for wanting to sit her in the second row. NTA, you should ask your father, since it was just 2 years ago, to seriously answer your question. Why was it okay for Mary to not involve you as family in her wedding, but not okay for you to do the same? Why should you be considerate of her feelings when he didn't ask Mary to be considerate of yours? Just sit quietly and wait for him to answer. Don't get distracted. Don't let him change the subject. Ask him to please explain his thinking here. You, of course, aren't going to get an answer, but be patient. Tell him if he can give you a reasonable explanation as to why he thinks differently about your wedding than he did about his own, you can solve this problem. Then enjoy watching him squirm and bluster and sidetrack the conversation, end the convo when you get bored, and put Mary on the kids' table. Oh, and be sure, Mary is going to screw with you on your wedding day, so have a plan for that. Next story. My brother has a daughter, female 15, Nora. His wife also has a daughter, female 16, Katie. And they have a son together, male 1, Boyd. They have a system in their home that they pay the kids for the chores they do. Nora was talking to me and she complained that Katie gets paid more because she helps babysit Boyd. She said she asked her stepmom to let her help as well to earn some more money, but she refused. I talked to my sister-in-law and asked her if there is any reason she won't let Nora babysit. She said Katie's older and she thinks Katie's more responsible and better with babies and she doesn't trust Nora with a baby. I told her it's okay if she doesn't want to let Nora babysit, but then she needs to make payments a bit more fair. Right now, Katie gets around twice as much as Nora. Nora gets about 15 and Katie gets about 30 a week. She said babysitting is hard, so Katie should be paid more for doing it. I was getting angry, so I told her, fine, then I'd like to offer Nora a job. She won't do any chores for you anymore. I told Nora she was babysitting for me from now on. I have a 7-year-old son and a 13-year-old son. My 13-year-old is old enough to watch his brother when my husband and I are at work or on a date night, since both kids are very mature and well-behaved. But they were both happy to spend time with their cousin. I offered to pay her $40 a week in exchange for spending time with her cousins. Last week was her first week, and all the kids are very happy with this situation. My sister-in-law, however, is not happy. She called and asked me if I actually paid Nora $40 a week to just watch TV and play video games with her cousins. I told her that I did. She said I'm being an a-hole. Nora was being paid according to what she was doing, and now I've created an unfair situation in which Nora does nothing and gets paid more than her sister. She asked me to stop this, but I don't want to stop. She thinks I'm an a-hole, so am I? NTA, your sister-in-law set in place a system that puts your niece at a considerable disadvantage. Now you have rectified the problem, and your sister-in-law is mad because she can't control your niece through money anymore. What does your brother say about all this? Has he ever gone to bat for his daughter? NTA, and you are a great aunt and good support system for Nora when her own father couldn't stand up for her against the stepmom's unfair treatment. The word from her stepmom, I can't trust her with babysitting my son, is hurtful. Remind that to your sister-in-law that you trust her when she didn't. Also, people who are saying OP is meddling, is not understanding. It's her niece who has no one but the stepmom, and sis are in the same group. Also, kids should not be working for money or free of cost. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.